Look, I will be honest, I don't even know where to start. I love Final Fantasy XV as a game, but I hate Final Fantasy XV as a Final Fantasy. I'm going to make another video later in the week that goes into more depth about why I don't like this as a Final Fantasy, and that will contain spoilers. But for the purposes of this review, I will mainly judge it as a game. And as always is the case with my reviews, it will be spoiler free. The open world. And let me clarify, I actually despise how boring the world is. It was always designed to be an Earth-like world, but when you know that places and landscapes like this exist in our world, you have to wonder why the best we got was an endless boring desert with shrubbery and a dilapidated village. They could have kept the world Earth-like and made it much more interesting and beautiful, but I digress. The open world design, despite some very annoying invisible walls, is masterful. Despite the restrictions, the world still feels massive, open, and ripe for exploration. The seemingly endless side quests are very well designed and often point you in the direction of some very important weapons or items. There is really so much to do. By the time I decided to progress from chapter 3, I was already well over 25 hours of gameplay. Final Fantasy XV is very good at keeping you interested. It's one of those games you decide to switch on for an hour or two before bedtime, and then next minute it's 11 AM the next day and you're late for work. Yes, you are right. They wanted to create the feel of 4 bros on a road trip, and they somewhat created that feel. The later chapters are rushed and the story kind of falls apart, or just isn't there to begin with, but there were some very touching moments despite the fact that I didn't really like any of the 4 main characters. Without spoiling anything, an interactive cutscene / story segment played when I stayed at a certain inn. It was a simple conversation between Noctis and Prompto, and it really made me feel for Prompto. It was very genuine. I just wish that there was more of it in the game. Again, without spoiling anything, it is clear that the latter half of the game is horribly rushed and mishmashed together. It is actually testament to Tabata that he was able to cobble all of this together into what feels like one hell of a complete game, with some flaws. For the most part, there just isn't any story, or no story that you can follow in any way. At one point you are in one location, you finish a quest there and get taken back to a hub town where a short splash screen pops up that says many hours later, and then you are inexplicably in the middle of a completely unrelated quest helping an NPC you've never met before. You didn't accept a quest, talk to the NPC, nothing. You were just thrown into the quest with no other information. I was originally planning to get this review up much earlier, but after hearing the complaints about Chapter 13, I felt that I couldn't properly review the game without finishing it first, and I would just like to confirm that Chapter 13 is indeed awful. I would go as far to say it is the most tedious, infuriating piece of gameplay I have ever experienced in a JRPG. I would rather do that teleport you back to the start water temple dungeon in Tales of Zestiria another 5 times before doing that Chapter 13 in Final Fantasy XV again. Thankfully, Tabata has already promised that changes are coming to that chapter, which is promising for the future of the game. But I'm unsure whether it really matters after the majority of us would have finished it long before this update makes it to us. This is a tricky one for me, because I feel like I can't say anything without both sides of the camp rushing to defend whatever their point is. I'll try and make it clear from the start. I prefer turn-based combat systems. I like that it enables me to sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. I don't need to go from sitting back watching a nice story cutscene play out and then jarringly jump up to start twitch reflexing to dodge or block things. If anything, it takes me out of the story. It doesn't feel more immersive. Having said that, my favourite JRPG series of all time is the Tales series, which uses an action combat system. They have found the right formula though. It isn't about being thrown into a swirling pit of entropy requiring you to twitch hit buttons to dodge, block or counterattack, so it still allows me to mostly relax and enjoy the game. Final Fantasy XV system is the best action combat system to exist in the Final Fantasy series so far, but Square doesn't really do action combat systems very well. What Square does do really well is turn-based and ATB systems, but that's not what we got. Final Fantasy XV's combat is reasonably fun for the first couple of hours, but it quickly devolves into doing the exact same thing in every single fight. You press circle, you sometimes press triangle, and you use a healing item if the enemy has lots of HP. There isn't much else to it than that, besides twitch reflex QuickTime events flashing up in order to block and counter some enemy attacks. The camera while in battle isn't very good, there are often way too many enemies in one encounter, and the enemies have ridiculous AI for the most part. Sometimes you can stand perfectly still and the enemies won't attack you. They'll just run around in circles because their AI is obviously programmed to just be annoying and that you have to chase the stupid things that won't stop running around in circles. The aggro radius is ridiculous as well, like way too big. Despite all of that, it does work in the context of the game. If you like heavy action combat games like Devil May Cry, you should feel right at home with Final Fantasy XV, albeit it is implemented in a much simplified form. Despite me appearing to have just complained about the game this whole review, I still think this game is a must-buy. I lament that we have essentially lost an entry in the Final Fantasy series for what Final Fantasy XV has become, but what Final Fantasy XV is a fantastic game. It's hard to put your finger on it while playing it, mainly because you'll be too invested in playing to sit back and wonder why you can't stop playing. I don't play games for over 80 hours that I don't like, and in a way, I absolutely loved Final Fantasy XV, and there's a high chance that you will too. Thanks for watching. If you loved or hated this review, you know what to do, and if you disagree with anything, I encourage you to head down to the comment section and tell me. I'm more than happy to elaborate on why I said something I did. Subscribe to see more of me and everything I do, and if you would like to help support my channel, please use the Amazon links in the description. Other than that, I will see you all soon.